Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Tittle Tattle Tarot. It's Georgie. And today I wanted to look at a figure that's interested me for a very long time. Her name is Princess Alice of Battenberg. She later became Princess Alice of Greece. And then after that, she became Prince Philip's mother. So, Prince Philip's mother, the Queen's mother-in-law. I would like to look at her. What a fascinating life this woman had, and actually quite a sad life, really. Very strong woman, but yes, she did have to cope with an awful lot in her life. Um, just a little bit of background, and I will say here, I am not an historian. I will give you the bare bones as always. This is a tarot read. It's not, a Wikipedia, absolutely, spot on with 100%, detail, because that's not why I'm here. We could spend hours talking about this woman's life. I want to get onto the cards. But let me just give you a tiny bit of background. She was the great-granddaughter of Queen Victoria, and Princess Alice was born deaf, profoundly deaf. But despite that, she learnt to speak many languages, and she could lip read in all kinds of languages. Very, very clever woman, but yes, she was profoundly deaf. When she grew, she married Prince Andrew of Greece. And they went on to have children. I think there were 4 girls, and then Prince Philip was the youngest, the boy, the only boy. When she married Prince Andrew of Greece, they were actually exiled from Greece, the royal family, during the Greek-Turkish War. And they were exiled for quite a few years, and they were basically nomads moving around. She went back to Greece in about 1935, but before that, her mental health was suffering. Now, she had been diagnosed with schizophrenia. Unfortunately, she became obsessed with Jesus, and she became obsessed with the fact that she felt that she was married to him. It was very disturbing for her and also for her family, and they put her in a sanatorium in Switzerland. And, she was treated by Freud. And because a lot of her focus was on sexual matters, especially regarding Jesus, which was all quite scandalous, I guess. What these fantasies that she had, but it was all part of her mental illness at that time. Freud decided that the best way to cure anything to do with sexual fantasies and what have you was to give her X-rays, many X-rays of her ovaries, because he felt that by basically frying the ovaries, you put someone into the menopause, and that that would stop all those lustful thoughts, basically. So they did that. They absolutely fried her ovaries with X-ray after X-ray, and it worked. Well, it worked in that she went into menopause. I don't know how much it worked on the actual schizophrenia, but to some degree she did recover, and she went back to Greece. And it was just really before the war broke out, the Second World War. So, she's gone from Switzerland to Greece, and things are very, very unstable in Athens. And basically, she stayed there during the war, and she helped the Jews. And her daughters had all married Germans. And I think, it's not a hidden fact that Prince Philip's sisters all married, people within the German, the German party, the German Nazi party, what have you. But she helped the Jews during the war, and she even hid a Jewish widow with her 5 children. She hid them in the palace. And if she'd been caught for this, well, don't. Well, the woman would have been executed, I'm sure. And I don't know what would have happened to Princess Alice if she'd been found out. But she, at great risk to herself, she hid this family during the war. And she fed the Greeks, and she was amazing. She gave them whatever food she had, she gave to the poor people that was starving during the war. Anyway, in 1947, she came back from Athens, and she went to the wedding of her son. And I think that was the only wedding that she attended of all her children, because, she'd either been in Switzerland in a sanatorium in Switzerland when her daughters got married, or else she would have been in Greece, sort of incarcerated really in Athens. So she never actually got to any of her daughters' weddings. So her son's wedding, Prince Philip to Queen Elizabeth or Princess Elizabeth, that was the first wedding she'd gone to. And she turned up, and if you see the footage of it, you'll see this amazing figure in a grey nun's habit in the procession. And she was just top to toe in grey with her nun's habit on, and her cross. Very, very religious figure, an amazing sight, really, when everybody was so full of jewels and everyone is in their finest. She was very much, this nun in very simple clothes. And straight after the wedding, she went back to Greece, and that was about 1949. And she set up some kind of nursing nuns charity, and they just fed the poor. And she lived in a tiny 2-bed flat, and whatever she had, she gave away. Anyway, eventually, her health led to the situation where she had to come back to England, and she came back and she lived in a room in Buckingham Palace, and she had very little. And when she died, which I believe was 1969, all she had were a couple of dressing gowns. And that was it. Just a few dressing gowns. She had nothing. She'd given everything away. And I don't know how Prince Philip felt towards his mother, but I think he should have been extremely proud of her. And she wanted to be buried at the Gethsemane, on the Mount of Olives. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. There were a lot of political reasons why it didn't happen. So she was just interred in Windsor Castle. But years later, she was removed from Windsor Castle, and she was indeed taken to Gethsemane and buried there on the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem. And that was in 1988. So she did get her wish, and she was laid at rest where she wanted. And I think that she had said, to give you an idea of the character of this woman, she'd said to Prince Philip, he would say, well, don't be ridiculous. We can't come and visit you if you're at Jerusalem. How can we do that? And she turned around to him and said, darling, there's a perfectly good bus service. So it just shows how totally down to earth this woman was. She helped humans in distress, died with just a couple of dressing gowns, and that was it. She was named Hero of the Holocaust by the British government. So I just want to throw some cards. I want to throw a Celtic cross, and we just look at whatever the cards want to tell me about this amazing woman's life. So we're just going to go straight in with the Celtic cross, and then we'll talk about all the different positions. Interesting, very interesting cards. Okay, so let's go right to the heart of this. Princess Alice of Greece, Prince Philip's mother. The Six of Swords. This is a moving card, and all her life she was moving around. She was born at Windsor Castle. She ended up in Greece. She went from Greece to Switzerland, back to Greece again. She ended up back in England, and then finally laid to rest in Jerusalem. So it's so much travel, and this is a travel card. And this was at the heart of everything, her being a nomad, really. And Prince Philip was a nomad as well, but this is very much Alice's energy. Moving around from place to place, sometimes of her choosing, but many times not of her choosing. This unstable footing, not on firm shores, moving from one unsettled place to somewhere calmer for a while, you know, during war, which was unsettled, moving somewhere calmer, and then there would be an upset there, and then having to move again. So yes, at the heart of everything was this very sort of moving around energy, having to move. Three of Cups. I see this as like her early family. This is before Prince Philip, her daughters, and this is before she became ill. These are the children that she had, the female, the daughters that she had, and she was a great mother. But unfortunately, this mental illness took over. But, you know, in the early years of her marriage with her daughters, you know, they were very close, very close. So that was a lovely energy that was sort of crossing everything, that you know, she had this very intimate relationship with her daughters and treasured them very much. And then mental illness came in at the Ten of Swords, and this sort of colored everything. Becoming obsessed with Christ, becoming obsessed with the fact that she felt that she was married to Christ, and you know, this awful, awful mental illness. And this was really at the top of everything for many, many years in her life. And the Ten of Swords, it is like the daggers in you. Her husband basically left her. They were never divorced, you know, but he never lived with her again after she went to Switzerland to the sanatorium. He was never around her. So that was a sword in her. She missed her daughter's weddings. She missed them because she was away in Switzerland. You know, she missed her daughter's weddings because she was sort of landlocked in Athens. All different things like this. This is like the Freud treatment as well, you know, being x-rayed and, you know, having this radiation treatment on her ovaries. These are all swords. These are all the dreadful things that happened to her. And that's notwithstanding the words, things that people said about her, you know, insane, schizophrenic, you know. So this was very much in the head of the whole situation. And then at the root of everything here, Wheel of Fortune in reverse. This was Queen Elizabeth's great-granddaughter, you know, born with everything on her side, born with everything she could ever want, a marriage set up to Prince Andrew of Greece, fantastic, you know, everything set out beautifully, having these four daughters before Prince Philip arrived. Good. How can that be wrong in any way? But no, the Wheel of Fortune turned for her, so she was under the wheel with this mental illness, and I see very much this as this awful situation. So the Six of Wands is not to be celebrated. Well, no, I mean, this is like the past energy of her, you know. Well, no, she wasn't celebrated. Nobody was going, oh, you know, Princess Alice is doing very well. Oh, Princess Alice, you know, is this, is that. Everyone's going, oh my God, Princess Alice, you know, she's we don't talk about her. Goodness, let's just hide this. We don't want people to know about this. So she was not celebrated at all. Her husband walked away from her. I think she was very much you know, on her own, and the family didn't talk about her. She was just away. But she came out. She got out of this sanatorium. She recovered from whatever terrible treatment she'd had, and the Wheel of Fortune started to turn for her. And Ace of Pentacles, she birthed this new life out of all this sadness here. She became this person who wanted to help during the war. She'd gone back to Greece. This is a new start. And for many of us, we'd say, well, how can a new start in Athens during the war be that wonderful? But for her, it was, because she was doing something that was so important, helping people live. And this is that pentacle growing. This family that she rescued basically during the war, this widow with her 5 children, hiding them. This was her Ace of Pentacles. This family could go on. They won't they wouldn't be sent to a concentration camp. You know, she would defend them, and they would go on to live and, you know, reproduce and have lives. So this was her Ace of Pentacles. She would feed people, and she would, whatever food she had. I think that she was receiving food from England, you know, the British royal family and her family and what have you were sending her food, and she was sending it off to the poor. She was giving it out. She was keeping a tiny bit for herself just to sustain herself. But anything that she got, she was giving away. And that was her Ace of Pentacles. She was at her finest when she was helping and helping others to grow and feeding them. How wonderful. So at the bottom here, 10 of Pentacles. Now, the 10 of Pentacles is like your earthly things, your home. This would be like the royal family, the right way up, the royal family card, the you know, everything that you could want. Look at this. You've got the dogs. They've all got pentacles. They've all got money, security. None of that mattered to her. She gave it all away. You know, a surrounding of rich family life, of material goods. None of that meant anything to her. She let it go. She let the money go. I could sort of see that as, you know, just letting money fall away from her. That is not what life is about. You know, having a wealthy family with wealthy possessions around you. That is not what life is about. And she'd gone to Prince Philip's wedding to Queen Victoria, and she'd gone as a nun, which she was a nun, and there was all this wealth of the royal family, everyone with all their pentacles and all their, you know, grandeur. And as soon as the wedding was over, she left and she went back to Greece because none of that mattered to her, and she continued her work with the poor. And we have here the 10 of Cups in reverse. So this is other people's opinion. Now, 10 of Cups, this is very much the sort of Instagrammy posts about, oh my goodness, look how wonderful I am and look how well I'm doing, and me and, you know, us here, and everything's so good and the rainbow and we have all our cups. Well, looking from the outside, I think very much the royal family thought, why are you going back there? Why in 1949 are you going back to Greece, you know, to live in a 2-bed flat? You know, and they were very upset by it, I think. They didn't understand. This is sort of the loss of his mother again, going back to Greece, not understanding when she could have had so much. She could have had this 10 of Pentacles. She could have had the 10 of Cups. And I think that they're very much these two cards. These are like the ultimates. You know, you've got your place in life. You know, you're Princess Alice and you've got your place in life and everything's good for me. Thank you very much. Well, this is, I'm not interested in any of that. I'm not interested in having, you know, the happiness for myself. I'm not interested in having the money for myself. And people saw that, you know, she went back to Greece and she did her charity work and she fed the poor. And so we have here, I think the next one was the Fool that came out. This was her in her element. You know, again, it goes on with the Ace of Pentacles, the Fool. She was just so pleased to be doing her part, to be feeding the poor, to be tending to them. You know, you talk about Mother Teresa, but my goodness, Princess Alice of Greece is not really spoken about or not very much known about her. And she had no agenda other than to help. And what an amazing thing that was. And that was her. That was her journey. That was her fool's path. And an amazing journey that was. And basically ill health led her to come back to the UK. But Ace of Cups, you know, she'd given so much of her life to the poor and to the needy. And, you know, when she died, she had nothing. You're talking about a few dressing gowns, and that was it. Just a small room in Windsor Castle. I think it's Buckingham Palace. I don't know, one of those anyway. Small room, and you know, the clothes that she wore were her nun's habit, And this Ace of Cups, this is the love of this woman. And I can't remember what she used to call Philip, but even as an adult, she still called him his baby name, you know, like Bunnykins or something. It wasn't Bunnykins, but it was something like that. She had such affection for him, and she still called him by the name that she called him when he was a tiny, tiny boy. And you know, this love of Christ, this love of feeding the poor. And, you know, she went on after death to finally be buried at Gethsemane, where she wanted to be laid to rest. So I would just like to go to the heart of the situation about this woman. Let's just go right to the very heart of who Princess Alice was. Who was she? Who was she, cards? Just give me some details here. Temperance, indeed she was. And what have we got on this side? Death and rebirth. How lovely. Temperance, you know, she was that cooling balm on a situation. I'm getting, oh, sorry, I'm getting a little bit emotional with this one. She was the one who protected the Jews in the war. She was one who gave away what she had. You know, temperance in reverse is the greed card. It's the lust. It's the I'm all right and I'm going to drink and do drugs and look after myself. No, no, no. Princess Alice was everything she had, she gave away. She soothed people and helped people, put her life on the line to help people. And you can't get a better example of temperance than that. And death and rebirth. Well, she recreated herself after this mental breakdown, after being in the sanatorium in Switzerland, after having these terrible medical treatments by Freud. She recreated herself, and you know, she became this great person that helped the Jews, that fed the poor, and this was a total rebirth of her. And she created this wonderful order of nuns that looked after the poor. And death and rebirth, yes. Well, she returned back to England, and she did die. She did die in 1969, and so this is her death. I just feel such energy from this. She was named Hero of the Holocaust by the British government. What a mighty fine woman she was. She went through an awful lot. And I would hope that Prince Philip was amazingly proud of his mother. I should think I should think she was oh, a bit of a strange one for him, you know, a bit of a strange one for the whole royal family. Probably didn't know how to quite react to her, but my God, they should have been immensely proud of her. So I hope you enjoyed that. And if you don't know much about Princess Alice, perhaps, you know, you might be inspired to just do a little bit of reading about her. If you do know more, then please tell me, because as I've said to you, this was not, you know, an educational talk about her. It was just wanting to get her energy, her life. And I think the cards beautifully, beautifully laid out her life in front of us. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you. Bye-bye.